Welcome back. In this video, I wanted to go over DNS and Route 53. Let's start off with Domain Name System, or DNS. What does the Domain Name System do? Well, essentially, the DNS service is a translator for domain names to IP addresses. Computers don't quite understand domain names like humans do, so they need a translator that will translate a domain name to an IP address and will give them the correct IP. And this IP address will allow the computer to go to the correct server. It allows any computer or phone on the internet to communicate with one another by using numbers known as IP addresses. For example, when you want to go to google.com, you don't punch in 8.8.8.8. You simply type in google.com, and then your computer takes you to one of Google's servers. So how does it find the correct IP address? Well, your computer can't simply store all of the domain names to IP addresses. Instead, it has a good friend named the DNS server. And their sole job is to serve your computer the IP address to where you're trying to go to. And we call these records A records, which are domain names that resolve to IP addresses. Now, in Amazon, we have a service called Route 53, which is a DNS service. We can create something called a hosted zone, and the hosted zone is responsible for storing the records that belong to a domain name. For example, let's say we have a website hosted on an EC2 instance called mywebsite.com. We can have this client computer ask Route 53, what is the IP address to mywebsite.com? And Route 53 will provide the IP address to the client PC. And at this point, it will be able to reach mywebsite.com. Now, Route 53 does offer domain registration, and this service allows us to register domains with AWS. We also have Hosted Zone, which again lets us store the records that belong to a domain name. And Route 53 does also do health checks, which verify that our endpoints are responding and are healthy. This helps Route 53 decide to either route or not route traffic to the instance based on the health check of the endpoint. Now, Route 53 is a highly available and scalable intelligent DNS web service. This service also offers routing policies, which for the cloud practitioner, we just need to understand at a high level. Starting off with the simple routing policy, which is the one we just saw in the last slide. It provides a simple DNS response to a client PC with the IP address to the associated domain name. We also have the weighted routing policy, where we can assign a certain percentage of the traffic to go to one instance and the rest to another, like 80% to one instance and then the other 20% to the other instance. Next, we have latency routing policy, where Route 53 will direct you based on the lowest latency route to resources. And finally, we have the failover routing policy, where we have more than one IP address associated to a domain name, and Route 53 will use health checks to verify that the primary instance is healthy, and if it's not, it will fail over to the secondary instance. I hope in this video you learned more about DNS and Route 53. I'll see you in the next video.